I've said before, one of the natural byproducts of government overspending is you have a reaction. People, there's social unrest in the streets. People get pissed because you have to start making tough decisions like raising taxes, like cutting spending. And typically, what happens is the majority, which are typically um, not wealthy, vote to take more money from the wealthy. And the analogy I use is kind of, if you have a farm and the goal is to perpetuate the gift that keeps on giving. So if you have a couple cows and you're hungry and you kill the male and the female because you're hungry today, then there ain't no more cows tomorrow. And same thing happens with taxes. If you try to suck out all dollars from businesses, they leave. You kill the cows. There's no better example of this than in Chicago. Chicago is one of those cities that keeps punching itself in the face. People keep voting for more of the stuff that are causing the problems in the first place. And Chicago is one of the most heavily taxed cities. And they're having some budget problems. So we need more income, not reform in how we spend. We need more income. Hey, and I'm all about it. You know why? Because not everyone, well, it's sad because not everyone can afford to leave. But these cities are going to crumble. These states are going to crumble on a long enough time horizon. If they keep punching themselves in the face, they're going to get knocked out because you cannot overtax, overtax, overtax. Because guess what these businesses are going to do? They're going to leave. Duh. It's not a surprise. But unfortunately, just like the guy who keeps going to the doctor, the doctor says, "Hey, man, you need to lose weight." And he's like, "Nah, I don't think so." He has a heart attack. That's his come to Jesus meeting. The pain of continuing down the path he's on is worse than changing. And until cities like Chicago, countries like the United States, most of their voters realize the pain of continuing down the path we're on is worse than not changing. So this free money, this voting for more stuff, it's going to require significantly more personal pain for the individual for them to realize the promises that politicians are making are vapid, fugazi. They don't exist. Politicians can't print productivity. It's the economy that gives Washington the purchasing power in the first place. But Washington and cities like Chicago are in the midst of trying to destroy it. Don't take it from me. Take it from the new mayor of Chicago. This was on the campaign trail a couple months ago, and he is now the mayor, mayor-elect in Chicago. And you're like, what? If you listen to what he has to say, you're just like, this don't make any sense. Let's listen.
Campaign commercial begins airing tomorrow. He's been hit for several weeks by negative attack ads from Mayor Lightfoot.
Our political editor, Mike Flannery, joining us now with the very latest on the campaign for Chicago Mayor. Mike?
Anthony and Natalie, candidate Brandon Johnson's campaign ads are, of course, already up on local media, paid for largely by his longtime employers at the Teachers Union. Johnson vowed today that if elected, he'll push for a city income tax and a long laundry list of other taxes and fees to pay for, among other things, unfunded public employee pensions and to hire more government workers to provide social services.
With a $1 billion investment into our schools, into jobs, healthcare, safety, and transportation. And I'm doing all of this without raising property taxes.
Brandon Johnson would raise many other taxes, including a first-ever Chicago income tax on those making $100,000 a year, a new $98 million jet fuel tax on airlines, what he calls a mansion tax on home sales, a $100 million tax on banks and securities trading, a lot of which would certainly leave town, another $30 million tax added to Chicago's already highest in the nation hotel tax, and a $40 million surcharge on Metra commuter rail tickets. At the county board, Johnson sponsored a resolution to decrease funding of police.
My budget also takes a closer look into the budget that continues to get bigger and bigger. And that's the police budget, where we have hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars going towards things that are wasteful.
With 300,000 downtown office workers who left during the pandemic not having returned, it is likely that a Chicago income tax would convince some never to return. And Metro ridership is barely half what it was in 2019. Johnson's surcharge would likely drive Metro ridership even lower. And there are his proposed new user fees on, quote, high-end commercial districts frequented by the wealthy. Maybe Johnson has somehow missed all those empty storefronts on North Michigan Avenue. I'm political editor Mike Flannery.
Well, at least the local news is still preaching truth. Isn't it amazing that these government bureaucrats, they come in and they're like, hey, we need to raise taxes to pay for X, Y, and Z. Public jobs, by the way, which are a net negative. They deplete resources. Some of them are needed, things like the military, certain politicians, but and you can even argue that some things in the military need to be cut. But all government jobs are taking away from the private sector. This whole like, hey, we're going to live in a panacea where government can print money and everyone has a shovel-ready job. You're going to dig holes and fill them back in. So you're being productive. Government does not have money. So in order to pay these people, they have to take it from the private sector, which is more productive. And so you gotta wonder if you have to continue this raising of taxes and your budget still is running a deficit. What is the problem? But that never occurs to people. That's why I think they need more pain. And you heard him say, or you heard the local news guy say, they already have massive issues. People are leaving, businesses are leaving, and the response is to raise taxes on said business, kill the cow. So let's take a closer look. And like I said, this is enigmatic. This is an example of how it's going to go around the world, in my humble opinion. There's going to be maybe more fiscally conservative places that want to draw this business in, but human beings' reaction is more free stuff. It's to villainize someone else for the problems they have or for the government printing. And politicians will 100% acquiesce to this. Think about the incentives. So up at the top here, it says Chicago braces for tax shock after uber progressive mayor was elected. Lori Lightfoot wasn't enough. She wasn't enough. So they moved further left, which, as I always say, what you spend money on, we can have a moral conversation about. How much money you spend is a math question. A lot of politicians don't want to do the math. This from the Babylon Bee. Sick of the same old crime and violence, Chicago tries electing a Democrat this time. Always good to get a laugh from the Babylon Bee. So it says here, so instead of voting for a centrist, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson is anything but, and the city is now bracing for more taxes. One of the highest, if not the highest, tax cities, maybe save for New York, maybe San Francisco, is Chicago. And people don't want to go downtown because there's very high crime. Cut the police budget. There could be some reform there. It's bureaucratic just like anything else. But that's not what the politicians are going for. As Bloomberg notes, the mayor-elect proposed levies on corporations, financial securities, and the rich would add pressure on business communities in the nation's third largest city that already is grappling with rising crime, high-profile headquarter departures, and fragile finances. So the city, who already has high taxes, has fragile finances. Why? Why? There is never an end to the flow. That's how politicians think. There's never an end to the flow of money. right? So more money comes in, more money gets spent. Uh-oh, we have another budget deficit. We need more money to come in. That's how they think. And eventually, you kill the cow. And the cool thing, I guess the silver lining here is it's not the country. Because the country you can't get out. You can't get out of the dollar. You have to use the dollar. You can get out of Chicago, though. And they'll learn. Further reading, he wants to put more of the burden on the business community, said Richard Chakaran, President Emeritus of the municipal bond research firm, Emeritus Research Services. There's some anxiety about the approach that he's using and the solutions. We don't want to start a negative spiral, meaning not being able to sell municipal bonds, kind of like treasuries, from the city of Chicago to get loans. Because one of the things that is happening is you have sophisticated financial institutions who lend cities money through the form of municipal bonds. And they start to look at their books and they go, wait a second, this is never being solved. You have to destroy the middle class. You have to destroy business just to pay pensions. I don't know if I want to lend money to Chicago. Johnson expected victory on Tuesday comes as the city's finances are under increasing strain, with a pension fund short $34 billion. You know what's funny about pensions? They vote for more stuff. They vote for more pension benefits. Yeah. I did a video with Economic Ninja a while back. Pensions are dying. City pensions are dying. They require investment. Unlike federal pensions, which require a money printer, they'll print the difference, which doesn't do much for your purchasing power. But state and local pensions are in big trouble. Big trouble. And so what they're doing locally is crushing business in order to pay for the 100,000 plus people that were promised a pension, oftentimes extremely lucrative pension, which, hey, you were promised it. That was the deal at the time, but the math isn't working. How do we make the math work? Destroy every business in Chicago. Oh, doesn't this stuff drive you nuts? Okay. So 34 billion shortfall, right? And then, federally, we have a 79 trillion shortfall in Social Security. What? Like, it's the guy that keeps going to the doctor and says, hey, you're about to have a heart attack. So it's not until inflation, massive inflation, or depression that people realize, wait a second, I keep voting for the thing that is making this depression or inflation worse? Yes, you are. So 34 billion as the city projects a 474 million deficit. In short, Chicago, which has been slower to recover from the cough than most other major cities, has to manage its way out of the mess amid high crime. Several high-profile corporations are bailing for greener and safer, lower tax pastures. Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. During the campaign, Johnson proposed $800 million in new taxes without raising property levies. Hey, fantastic. I'm not going to charge you more property taxes. I'm going to charge you employee tax. See, it's different. Chicago, I'm from there, has Chicago and Illinois as a whole, as a state, has some of the highest property taxes in the nation. And they're broke. This is to deal with deficits and to invest in residents and neighborhoods across the city, not just downtown. He also favors a $4 employee tax on large companies that have at least half of their operations in Chicago, and has floated taxes on airlines that pollute the city's air. Additionally, his plan is to include $1 or $2 tax per securities trading contract. Ain't going to happen. They're going to leave. That business is mostly online, like trading securities. You don't need to be in Chicago to do that. According to a spokesperson for the CBOE, securities tax would only cause considerable harm on the top of an environment where many traders have already relocated to other states such as Florida, Colorado, and Tennessee. It's going to continue. Meanwhile, Chicago will also fall under scrutiny from ratings agencies, meaning, hey, you're going to have to raise the interest rate you pay on your municipal bonds, Chicago, because your creditworthiness is becoming a little sus. Because it seems like you can't pay for anything without crushing your businesses. Yes, correct. It's just, you got to laugh to a certain degree. I like this kind of, locally. I mean, it's going to be harmful for the citizens of Chicago who can't leave. But the people who can't afford it, the wealthy, they're going to leave. And so these cities keep doubling down on things like $5 million reparations payments in San Francisco. And San Francisco has an issue too. They're broke. And it's never how much they spend, it's we don't have enough in taxes. Always, always, always. So taxes have to keep going up, keep going up. And eventually, you get to the end of the road where there ain't nobody to tax anymore. Does that sound familiar? That's right, that's socialism. You eventually run out of other people's money. And you're screwed. That's why these state issues are kind of really highlighting who's benefiting, who's not, what policies work, what policies don't. Chicago wants to do this. Maybe Wichita, Kansas wants some of that business. So they're going to incentivize them through local taxes. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's going to continue, like this kind of stuff, because most people don't understand the intricacies of what's going on here. And so if I'm a politician and I tell you, hey, we're going to have to cut your pension unless we raise taxes on these greedy corporations. Like, yeah, I don't want you to cut my pension. Raise taxes. And what they don't know is they're shooting themselves in the foot. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.